I love AI. I'm of the belief, and a lot of it, I would say, has to do with fear and just ignorance of how technology actually works.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, you still have people in the workforce. They didn't grow up with this technology. So to them, it's scary. It's something that they don't understand. They want to know, but they're afraid of if they press the wrong button, something is
Yeah.
going to erupt. But I don't think big tech is this big evil entity that we're making it out to be.
You're just funny. It's funny, the way you tell the story and everything.
Funny how?
Come here, though. Yeah, he's crazy, see? Who are you?
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
Are you ready?
Dude. It was okay.
It was okay. When you say okay, it usually means it fucking sucks.
Yeah, I wasn't. It did not go as planned. But
What happened? What
It
happened?
was good. So St. Augustine, for people that don't know, we're recording, by the way. For people that don't know, St. Augustine is like the Christmas town to go to in Florida.
Uh-huh.
And I've been a couple times. It was a long time ago, though. And it's gorgeous. I mean, every building is lit up. They call it the Night of Lights. And if you Google pictures, it's phenomenal. It's truly breathtaking.
Mm-hmm.
We went there the weekend of Christmas, and it was the worst decision we probably ever made. I mean, I knew it was going to be busy.
Uh-huh.
I didn't know it was going to be like that because I've never gone the week of Christmas, and
Mhm.
we got there, like the 22nd or whatever, and it was
Mhm.
just going with the baby, going with the dog too. We brought our dog. It was just a nightmare. The sidewalks, I think, might be the original sidewalks from like 1800.
Mhm.
So they haven't done any renovation. It's just a mess. So, I mean, the lights were beautiful for sure, but I would not recommend it the Christmas, the week of Christmas. It was just, yeah, it was a nightmare. So that was a little stressful. And then, it's a 3.5 hour drive. But, I mean, overall, it was a good experience.
Yeah. Well,
we learned a lot.
I mean,
For
it's
sure.
you learn a lot when you're raising your first child. So
That too. And it was, it was our first time traveling with her long distances. She did great. She did great in the hotel. We brought the bassinet. She slept just fine. So that was impressive. Our dog, first time traveling with our dog too. So now that I think about it, it's kind of on us because it was our first time traveling with a newborn and our dog for more than a day. And we're in a hotel room in an unknown spot. So yeah, it was meant to shit was going to hit the fan either way. So I guess we handled it the best way we could.
yeah.
But, it was good though.
Yeah,
How was your Christmas? How was your holiday? Good?
I stayed here in DC.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, it was freezing. It was like 50 something degrees, and I'm like thinking to myself, why did I torture myself with this cold weather when I could be sitting on the beach and it being 80 degrees and I could be playing golf for every day for a week?
That's the dream, bro, that we live here in Florida every day.
Yeah, yeah. My family lives down there, and it's like you can choose, what is it, like 5 or 6 different courses in a span of like 3 or 4 miles or something like that. So,
oh yeah, it's outrageous. But it's nice to have kind of like a snowy Christmas. Up there.
Yeah, no.
Are you guys getting snow now, or is it just cold?
We haven't gotten snow. So DC, it's interesting. It's one of those areas where, it's not like Boston or New York where you're going to get a predictable amount of snowfall, I would say, every single year.
Mm-hmm.
So some winters we get a lot of snow, sometimes we don't, just depending upon the season. But the worst part about it is like no one really knows how to drive in the snow here. So it's
Sure.
if if there's like just even a little sheet of snow on the sidewalk or on the street, everyone just stops and business stops for the day, compared to when I was in school in Boston, where they would literally, I remember it vividly, they would salt the roads the day before the snow even hit the ground. So it's like, oh,
To get
snow,
prepared.
big deal. Yeah.
Right.
But it's
Yeah,
like snow's nice for a good like 1 to 2 days, but then it gets old very quickly.
Yes, especially when it's kind of that annoying snow, right? Where it's
Yeah.
not like it's not beautiful, Christmassy snow. And then you end up having black ice, and it's just this. It's what it is. I mean, it's not snow. Snow is misleading. The word snow is misleading because it's really ice.
Mhm.
It's just ice falling slowly to the ground, and then when it gets to the ground, it's so cold and wet that it turns into ice, and then you slip and fall on your ass, and it's just it's not fun.
Yeah.
But
No, it's but it's interesting to kind of see the 4 different seasons.
sure, yeah. Again, something we don't have here in Florida, but but it's nice.
Yeah.
So what's up, dude? So tell me what's going on. Tell me, obviously we've connected already, but we've wanted to, I wanted to have you back on the show and kind of shoot the shit a little bit more. But yeah, tell me what's going on.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking about it the other day. We've been trying to make this happen for about a year now, more or less.
Has it been that long? Yeah, you probably
Yeah.
right.
And it's just to kind of I think I was thinking about it the other day too. So we met because I was trying to launch a podcast. This was way before what I'm currently doing, and your organization matched with mine with like a potential sponsorship opportunity or something, and that's how we got connected. And I remember, and then the rest was history from there on out.
Yeah, Meet Qbox, you mean? Was
Yeah.
mentioned? Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, so are you not doing that podcast anymore?
So I'm now currently what I'm doing is I write a newsletter called the AI Healthcare Report, and I also host a podcast called the AI Healthcare Podcast. And it was a funny story how I got the newsletter started. It actually started off as a joke. I'm like, oh, no one's going to read this newsletter. Like, no one's going to like pay attention to anything that I have to say because nothing I really say is all that important. But then it turns out, 800 subscribers later, people are still hanging around, paying attention. And then that turned into a podcast because, it's one of those, what about adding a video feature to kind of your writing just in case people don't like to read, is what I've been told.
Yeah. Smart,
so yeah.
smart.
And then that turned into, just me interacting with people, kind of learning from them of kind of what are they seeing in the healthcare space? How has that evolved since their, time in the healthcare space? How would they or their organization or whatever, how would they like to contribute to AI just becoming a more of a influence within the healthcare sector? And then since it kind of comes at it from a policy perspective, what would they want policymakers or members of Congress or their elected officials to understand about the implications, mainly positive implications of AI in the healthcare space?
Fascinating. Yeah, so let's roll with that because I got about 30 minutes if that's cool.
Yeah.
But I'm fascinated. I haven't really done a lot of podcasts on AI. I use it every day. And to me, I keep up with as much as I can from a content perspective. So I'd love to know a little bit more about the healthcare and from a political spectrum, how that looks. Because that to me is very fascinating because it's kind of scary.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to my buddy the other day that's also in the content space. We're talking about AI and all that. And people are like, oh, AI this, everyone's scared of it. AI has been a thing for quite some time. It's just getting really, really good now. And if you're keeping up with it, it's not like AI would be dangerous in the hands of a content creator.
No.
Right? On a macro level, AI is not terrifying because more people are going to get benefit out of it, and it's going to build systems and it's going to help businesses more than it's going to hurt. Where it gets kind of squirrely is when you really break down, like ChatGPT is a good example on a political side. Because I think they fixed this in 4.0, but I remember when it was like 2.0 or something like that. This is going back a year or two. Is if you ask it something about Joe Biden, it gives you a straight fucking cookie cutter gorgeous answer. You ask it something about Trump, it shits on him completely. So then you kind of look at it like, wait a minute, hold on. So now I'm asking AI something, but it's being kind of biased. So who's running that AI? Because typically when we think of AI, if you know the space, it's a plethora of information that's gathered from all sources, and it's centralized into this one source, i.e., ChatGPT. Right? That's how, on paper, that's how AI is supposed to work. And then it learns and evolves based off Q&A from the users. But some AI out there is not like that, is it? Some AI out there is kind of being fabricated. I think Google was a good example where, what was the thing they just tried to launch and roll out? Have you heard about this, where they fabricated some of the data?
Oh, the Gemini? Are you talking about the video?
Yeah. So that's interesting. And then they come out and say, no. We did that because that's how it's supposed to go. We just wanted to show you what it's supposed to be like. And you're like, wait a minute now, hold on. The largest supplier of information kind of made a boo-boo.
Yeah.
And it's about something that's pretty important to this society at this point, and that's artificial intelligence. So it's scary, man. So what's your thought process and all that? I know I laid a lot out there, but I've had a matcha, so I'm a little hyped.
No, I don't blame you. I love AI, and kind of what you were saying. Yeah, we've been using it. I was born in the 90s, so I was kind of that last generation, that, like a little bit pre-internet, kind of going into the internet phase. So for me, AI is like second nature. Prime example, you're on your iPhone and you're like, how do I get to the nearest, grocery store, or how do I get to like Amway Arena from, where I'm standing? And, the iPhone tells you, make a left, make a right, make a left, go here. So I'm of the belief, and a lot of it, I would say, has to do with fear and just ignorance of how technology actually works. Unfortunately, you still have people in the workforce, and this is not to knock on anyone per se, but it's like, they didn't grow up with this technology, so to them it's scary. It's something that they don't understand.
That's right.
Either they don't want to know how it works. They want to know, but they're afraid of, if they press the wrong button, something is going to erupt. Like
learning something new, things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I don't think big tech is this big evil entity that we're making it out to be, either.
Yeah. I mean, that makes great headlines, though, Dylan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When you say Elon Musk is out to destroy the world, it just sounds better on a headline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But when you dive into it, it's not so bad.
No.
I think it could be used for a lot of different things, and very similar to how when the TV came out, right? Like everyone said, don't watch too much TV; it'll rot your brain, right? Yeah. And then now every single company in the world has advertised at one point or another on television. So, do we believe it? Or is every company not believing it because everybody is involved in it? And then that slowly went to streaming, and then slowly went to your phone. And then, it was funny how everyone was talking shit about TikTok and terrified about TikTok in China, and one state, I think it was Minnesota maybe, that banned TikTok or something like that. It was one state out of the 50. And now you don't hear about it. TikTok's not a threat anymore. China is not a threat anymore. But for a while there, it was really good headlines. So it's one of those things where if you don't constantly keep up with it and you just hear it once, it's easy to kind of like your mind wanders and it runs with it. But if you're keeping up with tech as a whole, there's not a lot of scary things out there. Like it's all pretty good.
Yeah.
Including AI.
I remember, what was it, like 10 to 15 years ago when Facebook started to become like mainstream. Like, do you remember that arms race a little bit between MySpace versus Facebook, like who could outdo the other one? And finally Facebook just overcame MySpace tremendously.
Yeah.
And everyone was making a profile. Like no one thought, I'm giving my data away. Like, no one. And,
Yeah.
like, what do you think Facebook was going to do with that? Like, they were just going to sit on their hands and do absolutely nothing with that data? I think that there needs to be, some sort of, and for some strange reason, this is like a foreign concept in the United States, is Facebook is not a public entity. And what I mean by that is it's a private enterprise where they have rules and regulations, and free speech is only protected, when it comes to something that you say about the government. Like if Facebook sees something on their website that they don't want, I think they have the right to say, hey, we don't want that on our website. Facebook is not literally grabbing you by the throat and saying, sign us, you have to make a profile or else. And that's what I think people don't really understand about these social media and other tech companies.
Yeah, that's such a good point too. And I think a lot of it goes back to it's our, as Americans, it's this like, this like Ron Swanson type of mentality we have of like steak, cigars, freedom, America. Like, I'm supposed to be able to have my guns, and, if I want to tell someone to fuck off, I could tell them to fuck off. And if I want to, eat myself to death from McDonald's, I'm going to do it because this is America and this is the place we live. But don't you ever spy on me with my device. It's like, we got to be careful of this stuff because you're given this privilege of the iPhone, Facebook, all these social media apps. When you click download, you're essentially agreeing, just like you do agree when you walk into a mall, that you're going to walk in the mall and you're going to be respectful and you're not going to spit on the ground. You're not going to take off your pants in public. You're like, there's rules that they're not on the front of the mall. It's not like, okay, don't flash anybody when you come in here. Like, these are unspoken rules. Very similar to when you download these apps, to where you're agreeing to these terms and conditions, which they do lay out, but no one reads that. But then when something goes down that's laid out in the agreement and you don't like it, they're like, well, it's in the terms and conditions. You checked off on that. Well, I'm not going to read that. Okay, then you don't care enough to go through it. I read through that stuff and I click on OK because I would rather use these platforms, give away my data, and let these platforms profit from my data. So that way I can connect with people all around the world via these social media platforms. That is the price I pay. It's a free service. It's a free app. Same thing with Google. Same thing with YouTube. I just love how the same people that are so excited about getting all this free information on YouTube are also the same people that are very upset that their data is being sold. How do you think you're able to use these platforms for free? Either that, or maybe there's going to be an app one day that comes out like a YouTube, and maybe it's a monthly service, but they're not going to sell your data. Would people use that? The answer is no. So you can't have them both. You can't get free shit and also like keep your data and keep all, like, you got to make a sacrifice or just go completely off the grid. But if you go off the grid, guess what? You can't open a business because you need to have social media if you want to run a business now. And you're going to have to post on these platforms that you so hate. So it's one of those give and take things where the American dream and what we think is freedom, you kind of, that was 1776, bro. You know, you gotta forget about that shit. Like, I've said this many times before, where we're the best, like, we have the most, I would say, privilege than any other country in the world. We have a lot of pros. There is some cons. There's a lot of cons. But there's a lot of other countries that are hurting right now. We can get into the political war side of things, but we got it really good here. And the fact that we like to complain about tech companies is hilarious. It's so Silicon Valley. It's like, dude, things are good here. Relax, you know?
Well, yeah, and, you know, and it's, they're businesses, and I think
That's
if
right.
they're meeting a need of what people are wanting, then they should have the right to do that.
For sure.
And I hate some people who are like, oh, pro capitalism, and then they bitch and complain about these tech companies that are trying to make a profit.
Yeah. It's hilarious. Yeah. And not only are they trying to make a profit, but we as the consumer are actually benefiting from it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're able to use these tech companies and these platforms, to probably make your life a little bit better, maybe a little bit more exciting. Just like on a personal stance, I mean, with my business and my podcast and all that, I mean, look how we connected. We did all that through social media. We've never met in person. And I'm sure you could say that with a lot of people, as can I. So it's like that to me is kind of worth it, because what else am I going to do? I'm going to sit at home and go knock around my neighborhood and, check in with my neighbors every day. No, it's cool. It's convenient to be able to go on social media platforms and to experience like TikTok and Instagram, and to see all these different creators and these like regular Joe schmoes like you and I making funny videos, keeping me entertained. It's like having your own little Saturday Night Live on your phone that changes constantly. I mean, it's pretty cool. So it's like, that's kind of the trade-off is, they're going to take my data a little bit. And occasionally when I talk to Dylan about, the new iPhone, and then when I get off the phone with this podcast, I get an ad for the new iPhone that shows up, all right. So they took my data and they figured that out, and they're hearing our conversation, but I get served an ad every now and again. All right. Well, who cares?
Yeah.
It's all good. I mean, there's no way to fight it. I think at this point we're kind of a little bit too late in terms of like the laws haven't caught up to tech yet.
Well, and just to kind of give you a basic understanding of the policy standpoint, it could take Tony a good 10 to 15 years for a bill to pass. And that's assuming, I'd like to say three things. The member keeps getting reelected, number one. The member doesn't get arrested for something, or the member doesn't die in office. 10 to 15 years, assuming everything goes right. And being in the tech space, tech changes. What was new tech today is old tech tomorrow. So, I would even go as far as arguing that, our elected officials have already lost the battle when it comes to AI tech policy. And one of the things that I argue about, and it's becoming much more of a prevalent thing now, is should this be a state's issue? Should this be a federal issue? Like how do we, who should take the lead on it? And as you've seen, states have introduced more laws about the matter. So I think it should be more of a state's issue, because those respective people are directly being impacted more by state laws than they are by federal laws. That's how I look at it. But I know that they're going to have some listeners who probably disagree with that assessment.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, but it's also kind of one of those funky things where we're just not good. Like, you look at like marijuana as a good example, where, how long did that take to get legal? And then even now still it's not legal in every single state on a local level. But then also too, like, do you want to be like fucking Portland and legalize everything? And then now it's like, World War III over there. So yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of one of those things where I don't know if there's a right or wrong quite yet. It almost seems like in office anyway, from a local and federal level, I feel like so 1776 to like 2000, everything's been the same. And then like in the year 2000, social media hits, right? Quote unquote, the internet. And now like all these old fucks have no idea what to do. And now it's to the point to where these large tech corporations are essentially powering America. So now the federal government, even locals, look at it and say, I mean, what are we going to do? Like, what can we do? I guess the only thing we can do is just try to get in with these companies and bribe them a little bit to where we can be on their side. Instead of regulating laws to fight them, they're thinking it's, the right thing to do to get on their side. And then 20 years later, now they're like, all right, Zuckerberg, now we need to sit you down in front of Congress. It's like, dude, he's been it's been 20 years. What are you doing? Like, you should have done this 20 years ago. So it's laughable almost what they're trying to do. And I think, to your point, maybe localizing it is better. But then also you get to kind of the nitty gritty of like other laws that are happening all over the country, where if that's the case, then how do you regulate something like social media on a local level, right? Or AI on a local level? Like, what are you going to do? Like, if you don't like AI in Florida, you're going to cross the border and go to Georgia and use it. It's like one of those weird, almost invisible things that, it's not like abortion. That's a little bit easier to manage on a local level, right? Like, you can't really, social media as a whole, it's tough to localize. Or AI rather.
But I mean, like, the question that I really have to myself is, will AI, will it ever reach that level of kind of being a hot potato issue like you see with other social issues?
Right. That's a good point. Yeah. I mean, it'll only affect us when it'll affect us. Like, when that happens, it's too late anyway. So it's, it's almost like, I didn't read the article, but I saw something pop up the other day about Tesla, that robot that stabbed somebody. Did you hear about that?
I did not. What was the background on it?
So it was apparently, because Elon's testing these robots. You've seen these Tesla bots?
I've seen pictures of them. Yeah.
It's incredible. So now he's testing them in the Cybertruck factory to get production ramped up, and then eventually his goal is like in 3 to 5 years, it's for residential and commercial use, to where these guys will replace companies like Amazon and trivial things that humans don't need to do anymore. And then eventually it'll be like, Tesla bot, go grab me groceries, and it will literally leave the house and come back with your groceries. Like, that's his vision. So anyway, he's like, I'm going to do a soft launch of this in the Tesla factory. And apparently, again, I didn't read the article, so this might be bullshit, but someone could Google it right now. And apparently a Tesla bot grabbed a knife and stabbed a worker. So again, I don't know how true that is, but I find that super fascinating because, again, there's no regulation on it, right? Like, there's no laws, like in the Will Smith movie iRobot. There's no 3 laws. So it's, you don't know if this is going to be an issue until it's an issue. You know what I mean? So that to me is like AI, to where it's only going to be an issue when it's an issue. Right? By that point, it's too late. Like, you can't regulate things that haven't happened yet, which is the issue with AI versus other social issues that we've mentioned here today. So hold on. So I needed to look this up. A Tesla engineer was reportedly a victim of a bloody attack by a robot at a factory near Austin. Recent reports revealed that an injury report. Okay, they don't know how to type. They said report twice. Reports that claims that a robot designed to move aluminum car parts from one side to the other against a deadly service, and dug its and. Is this true? It's from Fox News, so take that with a grain of salt. But it dug its metal claws into the back and the arm of a Tesla engineer, according to witnesses who spoke to the information. So, good God, that sounds horrendous. Amazing. Yeah. Apparently this happened. I don't know. So that was witnesses. But also, too, it could have been someone that, like, maybe, rubbed Elon the wrong way on X, and then they're like, ooh, I'm going to come out with this report. So, but the fact that Fox News reported on it Usually they're pro Elon. So I don't know. That's interesting.
Mhm.
So, I mean, what do you think about like as a whole AI? Like, where do you see it going? You know, because it's, dude, just in the past year. I mean, it's fucking fascinating. Like, where do you see this thing going?
Well, that's a good question. So I can speak best to the healthcare space. So kind of what we're starting to see now, generative AI has become like the big buzzword now. Basically using AI to generate pictures and texts and
Mm-hmm.
all of that. So it's currently. I remember a while back reading something that it's being tested in Nashville with HCA Healthcare, and then in New Jersey, the Hackensack Medical Center. So I think AI, one of the areas where I think it's going to go is towards the hospital systems to maximize their efficiency. Because being in a hospital is, I don't know your experiences, but it's not the most efficient from what I've experienced.
Yeah. It's quite literally the worst. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For a country that has very expensive healthcare,
Mm-hmm.
you would think that it's, you know, it ain't Canada,
Mm-hmm.
which is, you know, where you're like, you need a new arm and you got to wait like, you know, 6 years. But it's pretty bad here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially with, you know, it's not based off priorities typically, which I found fascinating. I've dealt with some big issues a lot in hospitals, and I've been like, you know, throwing up my own bile and, you know, parts of my lung, literally. And I'm still in the ER lobby waiting. So, yeah, that definitely, I think that could really help speed up the process. But then I also look at like, you know, sometimes, like I use generative fill like for Photoshop and for photos and videos like you're mentioning, but there's also some hiccups in that.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes you wonder, okay, so if we test this out on, you know, let's say a mass test throughout hospitals, and we're doing something to automate the system to make things better for check-in or things like that. Like, how long until it's like there's no mistakes? Right? That's how I always think about is, because there's mistakes now with photo.
Mm-hmm.
They're very minimal, and you know it's fixable, and it's only a couple years old. So like maybe in 10 years, this photo generative fill is going to be beautiful. But if we start using this in real life scenarios like in healthcare,
Mm-hmm.
you know, those first rollouts of the test, is healthcare something we want to risk? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
do we want to risk it? I don't know. You know, is it worth even dipping into that space? That to me is the most fascinating is, you know, the trial and error portion of like Photoshop trying to figure out the best way to generative fill photos. There's no risk, all reward.
Mm-hmm.
But when you start using AI in real life scenarios, that's when it gets kind of squirrely.
Yeah. Well, and you know, one of the things that I think tends to get lost a lot when it comes to implementing AI in healthcare is the technology is only as good as the people that are using the technology on a day-to-day basis. Meaning, are they trained in the technology? Do they understand how it works? Like, what is their educational backgrounds? Like, how good was the training program? Either when I say training, meaning, you know, in the hospital system or in their educational life, you know, so you can throw all these technological innovations at healthcare systems and in the field of healthcare, but if you don't have the right people driving them, then, you know,
Yeah.
it's just a moot point at that.
Yeah, and that is worrisome to me because this is where we talk about AI, where it's a little funky.
Mm-hmm.
Only because I kind of look at it like this. I say, okay, so this is AI. This is a new thing we need to learn, right? From a healthcare standpoint, I'll let you speak more to this. But this is where I get a little bit, I don't trust AI
Mm-hmm.
because I don't trust our ability as a country or as a species to learn, adapt, evolve. We talked about it in the beginning of the show here, where it's these older generation of people that don't want to adapt and learn. So the people that run healthcare facilities, let's say hospitals, these are privately owned companies in America, right? So who's running the show here? Is it a Gen Z female? Most likely it's an old, disgusting, perverted white male, typically. So is he going to adapt? Is he going to put in any type of regulations? Let's move it a step further. Let's talk about universities. What are we teaching kids in universities now about AI? Nothing. You know? And by nothing, I mean there's things you could learn, but is it a requirement? It should be. It should be, I think, in schools. I think we should be teaching kids, you know, where China lacks in a lot of stuff. The one thing they thrive in is they got middle schoolers learning coding right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big deal. You know, so what are we doing in our educational system, like from when we're in middle school, moving up into universities? That's what kind of is scary to me, because I look at the healthcare system and I've battled with issues in my past, specifically Crohn's disease, and not one single doctor or specialist that I've talked to, highly decorated, you know, GI specialists, some of the best in the country I've talked to. And not one time did they ever recommend a better nutritional diet for me. It's always been medication. So, and I'm not on medication anymore. I was, and I was still having issues. Now I eat well and I take care of my body and I do protocols to prevent. And I haven't had any issues by doing that. Not one doctor told me to do that. Every doctor's told me to get on this medication, this test, do this bullshit. So I'm like, these motherfuckers are 60 years old. So whether it was 7 to 10 years of like healthcare, whether their doctrine, wherever they went to university, I don't know where it was, but wherever they went wasn't teaching them nutrition. In fact, I think the number is staggering to where it's like, it's only 7 days. A doctor's only taught nutrition 7 days out of their doctrine or something like that. It's a very small percentage, if any, which is amazing, because we know now in 2024, we know that a lot of diseases, probably over 90% of the diseases in America, are caused by our eating habits and the food and the water that we consume. And doctors are supposed to heal us, but they know nothing about nutrition. It's not required. And I look at that like, so is AI going to be required to graduate? Because it should be, just like nutrition should be. You know, like you should learn how to do these things. Because the problem is when these private companies have these doctors and they say, okay, I have the best doctor here, I have the best doctor there. Okay, when's the last time they got their degree? 1989. What? You know how much shit has changed in fucking 30 years? You know? And what's even more hilarious, I find, is that, like, if you have an issue with your driver's license, like you get a DUI, you have to retake a test. But if you've been a doctor for 40 years, you only got to get a degree once? There's no revamp? Like if you're a personal trainer, I was a personal trainer. My certification expired because every 4 years you have to get it renewed because we're learning new information. But doctors don't have to do that? I don't know. Like as someone in the healthcare space, does that burn your britches a little bit? Like what's your thought process on that? Because that to me has always been fascinating.
Yeah, well, you did bring up, I'll preface by saying I just started a book called Scope Forward, The Future of Gastroenterology is Now, by Praveen Sunthran, and it talks about how gastroenterology is one of these medical fields that has been lagging behind a lot when it comes to AI and other technological advances. Like typically, he talks about in the book that the usual treatments are like colonoscopies is kind of like the big thing, and about how, I don't need to go into the details of what a colonoscopy is, but, basically what he's arguing is the practices really haven't changed since like at least the 70s.
That's right.
And, you have all of these, companies now that are trying to be like, oh, well, if we test multiple cells to see like if one of them is at least cancerous, or, rather than spending all this time, doing it one by one, why don't we get populations of people and see, like, are there common patterns? Like, are there things we need to look out for? Or, but yeah, it's a fascinating book, and I'll be more than happy to send you the link after we hop off if you would like.
Yeah, I was going to say, text that to me. That's interesting. I mean, I've read the book, How Not to Die, which is very good as well. It's by Dr. Michael Greger, I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. And that's a very good book. It talks a lot about kind of like because he's actually a doctor in nutrition and physiology, and then just it's a very fascinating book because it talks more about what food can do to us, like on a microscopic level, and specifically the gut, which the second brain it's been called, because that's exactly what it does. Is it communicates everything we need to the brain, letting you know, because like it's more amazing that when you read things like this and you do all the research like I have done over the years, and you realize that like everything you do, from like getting up in the morning and getting sun in your face, could have a huge effect on your entire day. But back in the day, we were told, don't look at the sun directly. Or, back in the day, we were told, don't look at the sun directly. Right? Because it'll burn your eyes, or whatever, fable we were told. But it makes you curious, like, why were we told that? Like, who started that? Because it's been shown that looking directly into the sun actually is very good for you. Studies show, not, at noon, but like when everyone don't go out there and just stare at the fucking sun. But like, the UV rays we get, the UV rays we get. And then, you look at like, well, how do we get like cancer and all that? Well, we were told it's because of the sun, which kind of is it. I'm no healthcare professional. I'll let people do their own research. But then you look at like everything, all the lotions that we put on and all the stuff from Johnson & Johnson, and those actually have carcinogenic and some cancerous properties. So it's like you're putting on sunblock, aka could be cancer lotion, and then you go and get sun, and now you have cancer. Is it because of the sun? Interesting. So it's like, I think it'd be cool to see AI in the space of, I forget what app it is, but there's a really cool app that I think if it was AI would be cool, where you can like, I don't know, put on a lotion or take a picture of a food or do something to your skin, take a picture of your skin, do something where AI can detect what your body actually needs versus we're just guessing. We're all guessing. This is all guessing. Everything we're doing. Like, you clean your ears with Q-tips. On the back of the Q-tip container, it says, do not put in your ears. Fact. Look it up. So, who the fuck told us to put Q-tips in our ears? Someone did, because everyone does it. So it's like, is there a random group of people that are just telling us all these weird things that are slowly killing us just so they could profit? I'm no conspiracy theorist, but it's making a lot of sense.
Yeah. Kind of reminds me of, do you remember, I think it was at least 2 or 3 years ago when the eating Tide Pods became a thing? Then you had to put like, don't eat the fucking Tide Pods, basically.
Yes. Exactly right. That's 100% true. And I think that was all because of a TikTok or something too, wasn't it?
I don't know what the backstory was, but you started hearing stories about people eating Tide Pods, which I'm like, okay. I didn't know laundry detergent was edible, but
right. Some people, I guess, think it is. I mean, it's no different than when I was a kid and I bought a Superman costume. It comes with a cape, and the package said, "This will not make you fly." So, I mean, I guess we need those warnings.
Yeah, I don't know whether to laugh at what you're saying, Tony, or just cry.
It's okay, a little bit of both. Yeah, a little bit of both. Yeah, dude. The AI space is very fascinating to me. I'm cool. I'm very happy that you're getting involved in it, because I think it's something that we all need to learn a little bit from. And if you can, remind people where they could find your newsletter too. I mean, I'll leave everything in the description below, but so walk us through a little bit about your newsletter, and once more what that entails, and what are your goals for it and all that.
Yeah. So with the AI healthcare report, my goal at the moment is to just kind of educate people of kind of what's going on in Washington from a healthcare AI perspective. Just kind of, I want people to read through it and be like, I understood one thing that was in that newsletter that was helpful, or that I think might be helpful to me down, long term, or I'm interested in. And then I also have a podcast called the AI Healthcare Podcast, where you can find it on YouTube. And you can also find it on Spotify and Apple Podcast. And the newsletter is on LinkedIn.
Nice. Very good. Yeah, it's a good way to do it. Cool, man. Well, listen, I mean, we're already at over 30 minutes. Time flies, bro. But yeah, man, I'll leave your Instagram handles and all that jazz below. But where could people find you on the social media?
Yeah, so on social media, I'm most active on LinkedIn, actually. I do have a Instagram, but I don't really... more for like personal stuff, not necessarily professional stuff. So
sure, right on.
But yeah, no, I will. LinkedIn's the best, but let me look. Actually, it's been a while since I've been on my Instagram. My Instagram is dr62395.
All right, cool. I'll leave that below. You gotta drop on the IG, man. That's where all the magic happens.
Yeah, I know, but I'm too. Man. I feel like I'm too ugly to be on camera, though. So.
Just promote your shit that way. All right. Well, Dylan, it's always a pleasure, man. And, keep fighting the good fight, and keep educating people on AI. We appreciate you. Later
on. All right. Bye.